Hey guys, welcome back from Classic Work. I got a request the other day that somebody asked me they wanted to see how my version of how to hand cut dovetails. And this is something that if you try for the first time, it is extremely hard to do unless you have somebody that actually takes you through the steps and shows you what you need to do. Then it's tough. I remember the first time I ever saw hand cut dovetails, and I watched it from a master off of YouTube, and I was like, oh man, he made that look so easy, I'm gonna go try it. And I came to shop and I cut them backwards, I cut them upside down, I had fits so bad and gaps in it that you could lose a screwdriver in. I mean, it was bad. So I'm gonna give you some of my tips to help any beginners or advanced students out there to get better results out of your dovetails. So stick around, it's gonna be good. Okay, I thought we'd start at the end and work backwards a little bit. I'm going to show you some of the most common mistakes that are made in a dovetail. Now, this dovetail here, this is a 2-pin or 2-tail, and it's not a bad one, but we can definitely improve off of this one. Some of the most common mistakes when you start cutting your first dovetails is pick a good wood. This one right here is pine, which pine is not a good wood to start with dovetails. It's very unforgiving. It's hard to make plunge cuts. It splits really bad. It moves a lot. If you mill it one day, it may not be straight the next. It's just not a good wood. Stick with a little better woods like poplar, maple, walnut, just to name a few of them. But stay away from pine and other sappy woods like spruce too. When you get a little bit more experience under your belt, then you can move into these kind of woods, but you'll learn that you'll not want to use them. But anyways, we'll talk about a few very common mistakes. You can see there's a lot of gap right here. Now, that's not always the operator's fault. Sometimes it's tool misfunction or not thinking through the steps. This board right here is not flat, and what's done happened is it may have caused this piece to be bigger than this one. I'm sure if I measured it, it probably would be different. So that's one common thing. Same thing over here on the tail side of the board. You can see that there's more gap right here, and that may be from cutting too deep with a chisel. It just depends on what your circumstances are. But and that's most of the problems. If you can tell right here, there's a little bitty split, and that's from forcing the pieces together. You never want to do that. If they won't go in by hand, then they definitely won't go in with glue on them. So remember that. You want it to be almost a machine fit, so it just boop, goes right together. But yeah, I'm going to show you how to get a lot better result than that. Alright, let's get started. Now, the wood I'm using today is poplar. You know me, I'm a big fan of poplar. Now, we've got two boards here. We have our tail board and we have our pin board. It's preference on which one you want to start with. Personally, I like the pin board to start with. That's just, I've tried it both ways and I just like it this way. So, next thing you're going to do is you need to scribe a line, the thickness of your piece all the way around the pin board. Actually, you just do two faces, the top one and the bottom one. So I've got a little scriber here. This is an option. You don't have to have one of these. I'm just going to set it to the thickness. And all you'll do is just scribe around the board. It'll be just like a little faint line. Okay? And I'm just, like I said before, I'm just going to do two faces. Okay? Then we'll take our tail board and do the same thing, except we'll do the shoulders too. So we'll go all the way around the piece. And you can easily do this with a square and a pencil. This just saves a lot of time. And it's very precise. Okay, now we're going to start on the pins. Okay, I got a little story stick over here. I've got different angles for different things, and then back here I've got my dovetails set up. The most typical dovetails are 10, 12, 15 degrees. So I'm going to take my bevel gauge over here and I'm going to set this one to 10 degrees. Okay, we're all ready to go. Okay, now we can start laying out the pins. Now, in the other dovetail that I showed you, it had 2 pins in it. This one right here, I'm just going to show you how to do a single one. Single one is probably the best one to start with because one, it's easier to lay out, you got less material to cut, you've got less things to get right. And single pins, they're a lot more forgiving in my opinion. And especially when you're working with stock that's not very wide, like this one, I think it's only like 2 1/4 or something like that. Yep, it's 2 1/4. That it'll be plenty strong with just 1 pin in it. So let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to lay out the half pins, which are on the outside of the blank here. So I'm going to come over 3/8 of an inch, mark a line, and then come over here, do the same. Okay. Now we're going to take our bevel gauge here and we're going to put our 10° on there, flip it over, do the same, and there you go. Now then, this right here will just be a single pin. If you wanted to, you could come in and make 2 additional lines. I'll just throw this on here and kind of show you. And you could have a little tiny pin, and then you could have another one the same size on this side, and you'll have 2 instead of 1. But we're going to disregard that one. So what we're going to do now is extend our lines down. So we'll come over here, and I'm going to draw this line to our scratch that we put in with our marking gauge. So like I did before, I took the marking gauge, I ran it down the side, so we'll go right to the line. And there you go. And that's all the layout you need to know on the pin side. Okay, now we're just going to cut our lines in. Now this right here is an actual dovetail saw. This is a Lie-Nielsen, excuse me, dovetail saw, but you can easily use any kind of saw. You could use a back saw, you could even use a panel saw if you felt so inclined. But we're just going to start our cuts and just try to keep them as straight as you can. Okay, here's one, and we'll come to the other side. Oops. And you'll just cut down to your line, and that's all there is to it. Okay, we're getting ready to cut this waste material out of here now. Now I've done this a lot of different ways, but this way right here I've had the best results with. So what you're going to do is take a chisel, and we're pretty much just going to carve all this material out. So we're going to start up here where our seam line is. Just do a plunge cut. Okay, moving on down till you get to the end. And try to make that as smooth a seam as you can, so you'll have a really nice joint when you get done. So our first little cut right here is going to be really thin, so we don't want to break nothing. Pop right out of there. Go. Make sure she don't break the outside wood off. We don't want that. There we go. We tighten the clamp up. I saw it moving. There we go. Alright, and then just keep plunging down and cutting your waste out. And take your time as you do this. You don't want to rush nothing. Especially if this is... Okay, we're about at the halfway mark. I'm going to stop right here. This is why we're not all perfect. I don't know if you can tell back here. I cut a little too deep this time and it broke this piece off right here. So be sure you stop about halfway. So you'll flip it over, tighten her up really tight, and do the same thing on the other side. There you go. And you'll probably have to clean it up a little bit, but we'll flip it over to do the majority of it. Get in there a little bit better. Okay, we're going to mark off the tail now. And if you can tell, we got the tail blank, and here's the pin blank. Okay, now I used to do this all the time. Matter of fact, off camera, I did it again. You always want to put your tail in the right orientation. Okay, if you can tell, you want the fat part of the tail on the top. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you do it right. Don't be like me. Anyways, just line your pin blank up here with your tail. And remember that we marked our lines out for our tail, so just try to get it as flush as you possibly can to your boards here, and then you'll take a mechanical pencil. Some people use a marking knife, but I can't really see the lines that well, so I just prefer to use a pencil. And you'll go in there and mark your lines. And there you go, that's what you want it to look like. Sorry. Just like that. And what we'll do is we'll put it in the vise, and I'll show you the rest of the marking. Okay, we'll take our little square again, and you just want to extend your lines square across the top here from the face. Flip your square over, do the same thing to the other side. And there you go. That's all your layout you have to do. Now we can start cutting. Now tails, in my opinion, are the easiest to cut. They just, and that's one reason I save them for last. So, and tails are easier to recut if you screw them up. So this time it's going to be a little bit more tricky because we got to be real precise on our lines here. So leave a little material. It's better to go back and clean it up rather than having a big gap. Just come around. Okay, and then just do the other side.
Okay, after you get done cutting your sides, you'll just flip your piece over, like so.
And then we're going to cut the shoulders off. These pieces right here. Okay, and since we scribed all the way around the blank, you should be able to find that mark. And just cut straight as you can. Okay. Flip it over to the other side. All right. I reckon we're ready for a test fit. Now I do know it's going to be too tight since we cut it a little over size. Sometimes you have to flip them over. They fit better one way than they do the other. Yeah, that's definitely the side. Okay, so I know the tail's binding, so what we're going to do, stick it in the vise. We're going to take a really, really coarse file, like a rasp, and just sit there and file on the tail a little bit. Okay, and I spent about 5 minutes tweaking it a little bit to get it just right, but I haven't done anything to it, and I just want to show you. You can see that that's a very, very clean joint. There's a little bit of a shadow there. That's because the material is a little bit thicker right there than we took on our edge. And also, I don't know how this happened. I think the wood's a little crooked, but it's flush right here, but it's higher down here. And I checked this with a square, and it's straight. As you can tell, there's no alternate in that, or there's no movement. So I'm guessing what happened was this board here is kind of wedge shaped. Even though I thought I milled it pretty square, but I guess not. But anyways, a lot of people that I see, they show the finished project after they've cleaned everything up. I just wanted to show you this before I cleaned it up, and I'll show you one afterwards, and you can take a look for yourself. So you always can tweak these. Even a really bad one, if you play with it enough, you can get it to looking pretty decent. So not too bad. All right, let's clean her up. Here's the finished project. Zoom in a little bit so you can see, if you can. But yeah, turned out pretty good. No significant gaps in it, and you can fill them in with glue and they should be fine. But a few things that you want to check is to take a square and place it on the top, and be sure that it sits down where it needs to go, and everything still looks good on it. That's the worst thing in the world, is to have it perfect and you stick a square on it and it's not square anymore. But anyways, this is the sound that you want to hear when you put one of these together. I'm going to take it apart. But like I said before, you don't want to pound these together. You want to be able to slip together, because once you put glue on them, they're gonna have, well, I wouldn't call it debris, but they're going to have something in the joint and make it tight. So you'll take your pieces, put them together, and now listen to this sound. Hear that? Sounds like a puzzle piece. Here, I'll show you one more time. That's the sound that you want to hear. And that way you know that you've got the right fit. Well, anyways, guys, I hope it inspires you to go out to your shop, make a few. Get in practice before you do one. I would recommend cutting at least one before you try to tackle a project. And just take your time and be patient with it, and you'll get excellent results. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. I hope it answers any questions that you were looking for. And once again, from Classic Work, y'all take care. I'll see you next time.